Hello, I'm Wayne Visser. I'm Director of CSR International, and we're here today in Singapore with Mr. Steve Puckett, who is the owner of several businesses operating throughout Asia, also chair of the CSR Committee of the British Chamber of Commerce in Singapore. Hi, Steve.
Thank you, Wayne.
I wanted to just start out and get some of your views on whether CSR is lagging in Asia, or whether you see some good practices.
Asia is, as everybody well knows, is a developing region, and it looks towards Europe in particular, and the US in some cases, for its examples of CSR excellence. There are a large number of multinationals operating in throughout Asia, and particularly many of them headquartered here in Singapore, who of course bring their international practices, and the government here in Singapore is doing a lot to try and encourage local companies to embrace the CSR ethic that is already embraced by many of the major multinationals.
Okay. And in Singapore specifically then, are there areas that you think more progress has been made? I'm aware, for example, water has become a big issue here.
I think all the utilities. I mean, Singapore's an island with, without its own energy and water, natural resources, and in those areas where the government plays a part and steers or invests in industry, if you like, obviously water and power generation, then in those areas it makes very sure that its practices are, and they're not government-owned companies per se. They have been in the past, but the guidelines that they operate in, of course, it's a regulated industry, as such that the carbon footprint of Singapore's utilities very low. Over the years, they've switched from burning largely oil to now almost entirely gas, which comes from Indonesia, Malaysia, and now they're spending more than $1 billion on building a liquefied natural gas terminal. Of course, it's always a balance between doing the right thing environmentally and from the consumer viewpoint. Sometimes the consumer at the end of the day has to pay for these things, but it's also an issue of security with these major industries, water and energy. In fact, throughout the world, particularly in areas where it's an issue, and throughout Asia, China has gone from in the mid-90s of being reasonably well balanced in its oil consumption to now importing more than half of the oil it needs. These issues are kind of overriding security issues throughout Asia, and even in those areas like Malaysia and Indonesia that are known for exporting oil and gas, they are now becoming into balance or importing. So in these areas, the security is kind of an overriding issue. Okay. And to get back to the point of CSR, I think throughout Asia, all the way up to China, down to Australia, it's the major multinationals, food companies, the consumer goods companies like Unilever or Procter & Gamble, or the oil companies that bring their international standards, and the governments of those areas look to the industries and joint ventures in China to establish the guidelines or the leading edge of where best practices are. In Singapore itself, there are a lot of smaller companies, a lot of SMEs, and some of these companies struggle a bit, particularly during the recession, so there is a lot of dialogue, and we're here today at a CSR day-long seminar sponsored by the EU and one of Singapore's think tank, the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies. And the feedback from the audience is very much, well, okay, how do we fit this in with making a living, making a profit? And in Asia in general, it's much more of a communication issue than it is in Europe.